Anna Kidd is the founder of The Tea Curator, a 5-year-old business selling specialty teas online. Kidd lost her husband in 2021 and, after battling through, took the unusual step of closing her online shop for 2 months at the beginning of this year to get on top of fatigue and burnout. She's recently opened her online shop again and she joins me now. Anna, thank you very much for coming in. You had a horrific experience of seeing your husband through terminal cancer, and you're raising 2 children and many, many other things, no doubt. And I think I've just answered my own question, but what made you take the sabbatical?
From when Andy was diagnosed, I realised how important it was for me to really look after my own health and wellbeing. And I had developed a number of practices throughout the years of his illness to really make me feel very mentally fit and strong. And at the end of 2022, I could just start to feel I was becoming really exhausted and overwhelmed. And so I knew it was a bit of a sign that actually I needed to take some time out. And with a bit of advice from a business coach who encouraged me, because I was the business owner, to really prioritise my health and wellbeing, I did make that quite difficult decision to shut my business down for 2 months.
I mean, most founders would be aghast, no doubt, at the idea of that, not knowing your background coming into that. But what did you believe about the fate of your business at the time that you made that decision?
Yeah, I think the world is a really challenging place right now, and I think it's incumbent upon us to actually think really differently about how we run businesses and how we think about ourselves as involved in those businesses. And through my business, I do talk a lot about health and wellbeing, and a lot of that is because of my experience with Andy. And so in a way, I was living my brand values by making this really bold move. That's not to say it wasn't really scary, because it was, but the response I had from my customers was so overwhelming, and I think they could really genuinely see here is somebody that is not just talking about something but is willing to make what could be quite a big sacrifice for herself and sort of for her energy levels and for her family as well as her business as well.
So what was behind your sort of personal communiques?
Yes. So when I started to think about sharing my story with my audience, it was really nerve-wracking because I'm an introvert by nature. My background in corporate communications had always seen me behind the scenes, not in front. So it was a really big moment for me to share my full story with my customers. But the honest truth is that the response I got from my customers was so overwhelming and really heartening that they were telling me here was somebody that was being very genuine in their business and, you know, not only talking about putting their health and wellbeing first, but actually doing something that demonstrated that. And I realised in that moment, and it's something I knew intellectually, that people connect with a person, they don't connect with a faceless brand. And when I returned from my sabbatical, I wanted to be honest with people and share what I got up to on my sabbatical. So I was quite truthful about what happened in my 2 months off. And again, I had lovely feedback from my customers about that because they were starting to learn about who I was as a person and probably trust me as well as a business owner, I think.
So no one said too much information?
No, not at all. No.
Amazing.
No.
Yeah. So it was a gamble, but it paid off.
It was, yes.
Yeah. Now, what's happened with the business since you've come back?
It's been really heartening, actually. So I certainly knew going into it and during my sabbatical that this could be the death knell of my business, taking 2 months out. I was very aware of that. But when I sat back at my desk on day one, when I was opening up my business again, I felt such a sense of what I would say is euphoria. I was so excited to be back. And I think the distance from my business gave me a different insight into how lucky I was to have created a business that not only supports my own health and well-being, but that gently encourages others to do the same. And my sales have been strong, so similar and a bit above May, and June's tracking the same. So I feel like it's only been good for my business.
And so finally, what are your aspirations for the business?
Yeah. There's so much potential for tea in the New Zealand market. So tea is a very ancient beverage, but we only really get access to a tiny proportion of the tea that's produced across the world. tea is very similar to wine, that it's a natural product. The flavour comes from the natural tea leaf, and we get access to probably what sits at the lower end of the spectrum, but there's a higher end of the spectrum, and that's where I source from, is high-grade loose leaf tea. With the movement that people are drinking a little bit less, a little bit more mindful about the health of their minds and their bodies and taking time out, I feel like there's huge potential in tea, because once you get into a habit of drinking good tea every day, it's embedded in your daily rituals. And so the market in terms of direct to consumer, I think, is really large. Then you look at, corporates and hospitality and corporate gifting. So I feel like there's enormous potential.
That's great, Anna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.